very much for joining this webinar, and I'm so pleased to be moderating this with my esteemed panel of Anuj, Puri from Anarock, Pinakiranjan from EY, and Kumar Rajagopalan from the Retail Association of India. Thank you once again for so many of you. As of a few minutes back, we had 1,000 plus registered viewers, and as we are going live, we see many more joining. This webinar is also live on the TRAIN Circle app, where we have close to about 130,000 members, and we're expecting many of them to also join. Yeah, the last few days have been hectic for all of us because that we have got locked in, and all of us are talking about COVID-19, how it has created an impact within the world, how it has impacted India, and lots of issues around COVID-19. I know COVID-19 is a medical challenge as well as a business challenge. Since none of us here on this webinar are medical professionals, therefore we would not be talking about the medical impact of COVID-19, nor will be actually talking about what all has happened in COVID-19, because all of you have got tremendous information almost on a second by second as to how it is impacting, which part of the world it is impacting, and what's happening to India locality by locality. The only thing that I do want to share is this is not a localized event. This is not something that's happened only to Maharashtra or Karnataka or Mumbai or India, but this is probably for the first time post-World War II where the whole world is getting impacted. Therefore, whatever we're going to talk from the fact that it is already there, and in that situation, what are the ways forward, and what are the things that we can actually do to maybe lessen the impact of the same, or think forward and look in the future. So we are not getting into analysis of COVID-19, but looking at saying the impact of COVID-19 and how it can actually go forward with us. I have extremely good friends and panelists. We have known each other for many, many years. So I have Anuj Puri, who is the chairman of Anarock, the founder of Anarock, has been in the real estate retail business for many, many years. So we're going to draw on him on a lot of his real estate experience. I know some of the questions will be tricky and some of the forward projections may be tricky, but I think we have to take it with, because our endeavor is to be as genuine as possible. Pinaki is a partner in EY, and he is, I can say, almost an expert in FMCG and retail, and being from the consulting business and also being a practitioner on ground, having worked so many retailers across, I'm sure he'll be able to bring in a perspective of how the world is, what's happening around the world, how is the China recovery looking at, and of course the fact that India is just at an early stage. Kumar Rajagopalan is actually the CEO of Retail Association of India, which actually represents close to about 600,000 doors with almost 1,300 corporate members, and therefore it's the single voice of modern retail and retail in India. So we'll ask Kumar to bring in the retailing aspect to this discussion. So let me start off with opening up the session and asking Anuj to introduce himself and talk about how he sees the sector. Then I'll go on to Kumar, and then I'll go on to Pinaki. Anuj, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nagesh. A pleasure to be on your panel. And as you rightly said, is that there are over 1,000 viewers who have registered. So, delighted to meet them. This is the new way of meeting. All of us have started to use technology in a more meaningful way. I mean, your opening comments, Nagesh, were very apt. It is unusual times. These are unpredictable times. Also these are times that, many of us have never experienced in our lives. We remember, Nagesh, you and I would remember at the time when 2008 global financial crisis happened. There was wrong that had been done by the world at that time, by the US at that time. The banks went down. There was destruction of wealth. In this scenario, as you rightly said, it's a medical scenario. It isn't that anybody has done anything wrong on this occasion. This is, in my view, a loss of productivity, and loss of productivity for the asset, which is the mall owner's physical space, and loss of productivity for the retailer because he or she is just not being able to open the doors. Now, how do you manage this loss of productivity over the next few quarters, and how do you emerge out of this both being able to sustain each other? which is what I would love to discuss as we go further into the panel.
Yeah, Pinaki, over to you.
Thanks, Nagesh. And again, happy to be in the panel. My name is Pinaki Mishra. I lead the consumer products and retail sector for EY. I've known Nagesh and Anuj, both of them, for more than a decade now. So I think, Nagesh, this is unfortunately, this is one situation where we don't have a record to go by, and it's becoming increasingly hard to predict on what will happen. I mean, I've had so many CEOs call me and saying, do you know what will happen? But it all depends on what will happen on 15, on how we measure up. It depends on when we flatten the curve. Many of them are unknown. So I think in our view, what probably is the best way to do now is to break up the problem into 3 phases. So this is what we call the react phase, and you can't do any planning right now. You just react on what is happening. So for example, if your stores are shut, then you start thinking of what do I do when it open? How do I react now? So your main reaction will be probably towards your people and towards your business partners, because you can't do any business really. On the other hand, if you are a food and grocery player, then your reaction would be, how do I make the products available to the people? Because there's a demand, there's a supply chain problem, but there is a demand and I need to serve, which means that even if I don't have delivery capability, how do I, get my ecosystem to make that happen? So people will have to deal with it in a different way. The next phase probably will be what we call the recover phase, and then will come the growth phase. So I'm quite optimistic, Nagesh, that in 2 months we'll see the end of react and we'll get into the recovery mode, depending on which, as I said, which sector we are in. And since this is a medical problem, and we are hoping that. And we've seen in the past in other countries where the graphs have got flattened over a few months' time. So we are hoping, but again, it's very, very unpredictable. We still don't know what will happen.
Thank you. I think Kumar is having some challenges with his network. So Kumar Rajagopalan is the CEO of Retail Association of India. So I'm going to wear my official hat as the chairman of Retail Association of India and try to talk on behalf of Kumar, although Kumar is the public face of Retail Association of India. So in the association has been extremely active, talking to all the CEOs and all the owners of the Retail Association. In the beginning, we had 2 challenges. One challenge was to see how the food retailers can get their act together and therefore coordinate with each governments to get the supplies right. On the other hand, the challenge was the non-food retailers were all closed, and therefore, what do you do? So there is an anxiety towards the future, and there is a current challenge to actually manage. And the Retail Association has been working for the last 2 weeks to work with all the governments. I must say that the association has found the government to be extremely active and very, very responsive. Many of the decisions that happened on the fly have actually issued circulars and notification on the fly. So I think that part has gone off very, very well. But currently, if you ask, the whole challenge in front of the Retail Association is how do we put together a proposal which the government can actually include us when they announce the economic package. Many proposals have gone to the government, have gone to SEBI, have gone to RBI, and have gone to different states. So that's what the Retail Association of India is doing. And I think there's a lot of effort on behalf of all the retailers in the country. And we are hopeful that when the economic policy actually is announced, hopefully retail will see some relief. At least we all have hopes. And on behalf of the 50 million retailer people who work in retail and the 12 million retailers in this country, I do have hope that things will work out towards the positive. So let me open up the various questions that we have received. And this question, I will open it up for both Anuj and Pinaki to react. And since you also are part of large companies, at this point of time, I mean, if a CEO or a business owner or a CXO has to look at what is it that he or she should be thinking and how should she or he be thinking? Pinaki, go ahead first.
I think, Nagesh, at the first point of thought would be about the people. I think every CEO should first worry about how do you keep the organization motivated, because what you don't want is as and when we recover, maybe a month or 2 months down the line, you have an organization that is totally. So I think the first priority should be people, and probably the next priority, or probably almost an equal priority, will be how do you support your customers? Because don't forget that many of us are actively. For example, you have a sector that is running the banks, right? We are all our transactions going through. Somebody at the back end is doing that hard work, which is not visible. There are IT companies whose people are going to offices. So you have a lot of these mission critical areas that every company in its own way is supporting. So I think that's the second part, is how do we then get to work in the most effective way to support the business and mission critical. I would say that currently we are, as I mentioned earlier, in a kind of a phase. I think it's a lot of these strategies are pretty much happening on the fly, including what the government is doing, including what companies are doing. I mean, you have a problem and you are trying to solve it within hours, minutes and days, and hence you don't see a very long-term thinking right now. So if I'm a CEO, I'd worry about my people, worry about my customers, worry about how to solve all the mission critical problems and keep people. I think that would be my first priority.
Yeah, I like the way you said, Pinaki. As of now, look at your people and look at mission critical if you're part of the mission critical operations, and then start thinking about the rest of the things. But I'm going to come as we go forward and ask questions saying that, well, we have a lot of time on our hand. We have to start thinking about the future, but I'll come to the question. Anuj, what should the CEO's mind be occupied with as of now?
So Nagesh, Pinaki said absolutely the right thing is, first is that how do you engage with your employees? How do you communicate with them? How do you over communicate with them? How do you show compassion? How do you demonstrate empathy with them? Make sure that they are a part of your organization. They understand the confidence that your organization has. And hence, it is going to be very important to be able to engage with the employees on a very regular basis, because there's going to be a huge amount of nervousness. Whether I'm going to have my job, whether there's going to be a pay cut, how is it going to look like going forward. So there has to be an engagement. In my view, perhaps even erring on over communication with your employees. The second is similar to what Pinaki said, is about the customers. I would engage, I would discuss with them what is it that we can do when we are going to be able to come back. Hopefully this lockdown period at some stage soon is going to disappear. How are we going to be able to energize? Because today the problem, Nagesh, of everyone is that whilst the costs are sitting, revenue is 0, 0, 0. And, there has to be some discussion on that part as well to say is what is it that we're going to do once the lockdown opens up? We want to be the first guys off the block. I would add two more things to that is, Nagesh, I would certainly start to look at my cost. And I think many of the good organizations have started to look at it, the discretionary spend that is happening, the nice to have things, the consolidation of various activities. What is it that you can really do without necessarily cutting into the muscle? Because the last thing that you want is that if there is a V-shaped recovery, then you have cut the muscle of the organization so much that you're not really able to take the advantage. But I would certainly look at the cost, because ultimate truth, Nagesh, is cash is king. I mean, whoever is over-levered is the one who's really getting hurt today. It is all going to be how much energy, how much resources, how much cash you have. Again, I go to my opening statement, Nagesh, that this is a productivity loss. You have to just make sure is that you have, whether we say it's a 2-quarter or a 3-quarter phenomena, enough cash to be able to go through this. I think is many organizations, not only in retail, many organizations, even in the sector that I represent, real estate, will find it extremely challenging to go through these 2 or 3 quarters unless the government really comes in with a stimulus package.
Thank you, Anuj. Since Kumar is not here and on the call, there are many, many small retailers. In fact, there's one retailer who has only one grocery shop in Indore, and he sent me a message. So let me talk on behalf of the smaller retailers and take 2 points that you all are mentioning. One is on people, and second is on communication. So whoever is here who is not part of a very, very large organization, which has Cisco implanted, which have all the possible tools available to do webinars. Okay, but one thing is very clear: communication, communication, communication. So even if you're a small retailer, और शायद आपके दुकान में केवल 5 लोग काम करते हैं, तो कोई बात नहीं, अगर एक साथ 5 को आप व्हाट्सएप पे कनेक्ट नहीं कर सकते हो तो हर किसी से एटलीस्ट 5-5, 10-10 मिनट बात करो, पूछो वो कैसे हैं, पूछो उनका फैमिली कैसी है, पूछो उनको कोई तकलीफ हो रहा है क्या, हो सकता है उनके पास बैंक अकाउंट ही ना हो, अगर बैंक अकाउंट हो तो एटीएम कार्ड ना हो, और एटीएम कार्ड हो तो शायद उन्होंने इससे पहले कभी एटीएम कार्ड ऑपरेट ही नहीं किया, क्योंकि उसको जब जरूरत थी तो वो आपके पास आते थे. So I think asking about them and taking care of them is a very, very important thing. Many of them may be all alone here, their families may be in hinterlands, and they also will be worried about their family. So shayad if you can do something for their family sitting here, if you think you can even transfer 1,000 rupees on a Paytm or any UPI means to their family will make a difference. So I think communicate with your family, with your people is very, very important. For organizations who have got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 stores, I mean, there are lots of methods to communicate. Many of you must be thinking कि हम तो technology नहीं है हमारे पास, हम कैसे communicate करेंगे? There are lots of simple things which have come up in terms of apps. Those of you who are in retail can use our app and TRRAIN that we have created for TRRAIN Circle, through which you can communicate with your employees. It's a simple thing, in a day's time we can put you on. But communication is very, very important. एक तरफ we are talking about hierarchy of people, and it's all about people. There's another set of people that we all deal with retail, which are consumers. So before we get into some detailed questions, and you are a consumer, you have people around you, your family who are consumers, let's do a little bit of stargazing and say what can happen to consumers or what's happening. Pinaki, starting with you, do you see the way consumers are thinking today, a big behavioral change that will happen in the next 3 months, 6 months once it opens up?
So Nagesh, I'll give you an anecdotal example. I was speaking to a friend of mine from Kolkata who was never ever gone online, and he was telling me all along my wife used to order, and now I've learned and I've realized it's easy. And I think that's the biggest transformation that will happen in the industry, that today out of force and not habit, people have been forced to go online, not just to consume entertainment, they will consume consumer products, everything online. So I think that's the biggest change that you will see from the consumer side, that the ability to access online information as well as products will go up dramatically after this whole COVID situation is gone.
So that is one, as far as the behavioral change going online, because they were used to offline shopping. I want to dwell a little deeper. Maybe let's talk about fashion and apparel. Having lived inside for 20 days, 21 days, with only the best of shirts and maybe a very ragged dhoti or a bottom toe. Okay, do you also think behavioral changes to saying, "Bas itna kapda kyun kharidna hai?" Or people have learned to live with small meals in terms of consumption of groceries and food. I mean, a lot of women are probably not getting their makeover or makeup things. Do you think there'll be some fundamental shifts in the ways of humanity thinks?
So, Nagesh, here I have an interesting theory, and it's my theory. I don't know how far it is right. So, I think the younger lot probably go through that process of thinking, because they will think that, do I need so many pairs of clothes? Do I need so much? My sense is the people who are maybe 30 plus probably will think about it for some time, and they'll go back to their old ways because their habits are pretty strong. But you are right. I mean, we have all discovered that you don't need to eat so much, you don't need so many clothes. So it's a question of how each age group will react. The middle-aged, older people will probably see it as a temporary change and go back. But the younger lot, which is far more environmentally conscious, will now find another proof. See, earlier they always had this kind of vision, but now they really have the proof that it can be done. So I think that's probably could engineer a big change.
Anuj, I want to ask you, and this time I want you to put the hat of the total real estate, both residential, commercial, as well as retail. Do you think sitting at home, people must be thinking in terms of saying, if it is going on so well, do I require a 100-seater office? Maybe I can cut it to 50-seater. People can work 50% from home. Or you think people must be thinking, yeah, I mean, all that you do, you don't save, you borrow, take rest, big flats, and now men must be thinking, because spouses who are not at home are now doing jhadu pocha, so they must be thinking, bada ghar ko lena tha, problem ho raha hai. Or in retail, do you think the fundamental shifts happening in consumption?
So I'll divide it into two parts, Nagesh, and I may take 2 or 3 minutes. First, I do want to say about a little bit about retail. I read a book, a few weeks ago, and, it was about German concentration camps. And just seeing the moon, was a pleasure for them. I feel is, once, we are going to come out, there will be people who would want to seek happiness. There will be purchase. I mean, I can tell you, I genuinely want to go out. I may not go to a restaurant. I may not go to a theater because, for safety reasons, they may not open those things. But I genuinely do want to buy, as you rightly said, is maybe 2 T-shirts. I do want to go out. I want to feel happiness. Am I going to necessarily go out and buy a real estate? I don't think so. Am I going to go and buy a big car? No. Am I going to go and plan my holidays? No. But I do feel is that on the retail, you are going to see some kind of an encouraging news, because as human beings, we can't be locked in for a very, very long time. As far as the real estate is concerned, Nagesh, you said absolutely right. Unfortunately, Nagesh, in this occasion, I have not seen it. I've been here 25 years. All sectors of real estate have got impacted. We are going to talk about retail real estate. I'm seeing hospitality, hotels, look at it. They're all shut. They were not like that before. Offices, because of the US. And, US corporates are the largest consumer of office space in India. I'm telling you, it is bound to have a pressure where they're not going to take new space. Existing space will go into contraction, rent renegotiation downwards for offices will start. Residential though will take a long time. And my trouble on Resi is, Nagesh, what was selling was really the affordable housing. Premium was anyway not selling. I just feel is if there are going to be job losses, or if the confidence of the blue-collared employee goes down, that sector is going to get hit badly, which was the cash generator for many, many developers. So if you look at it from a real estate point of view, hotels, many of the developers have got shut. Retail, we'll discuss it. And, at this moment in time, really badly being hurt. Offices, which were doing exceptionally well, I can tell you from 2009 experience, it will go into contraction. And then residential, what was doing well was affordable housing. That if there is job losses, if there are no job losses, then it can still continue. But there will be an impact on the affordable side as well.
That's an interesting. And from I want to take a lead question, Pinaki, coming to you. And before that, maybe I also want to comment on that. See, all of us are saying people are so important. Yeah, but as we go forward, and we're also saying that we have to have higher productivity, we have to cut costs. Okay, there is a huge amount of anxiety in the people as to whether they'll get the salaries, whether the government is going to support them, whether will they have jobs or they don't have jobs. So my own feeling is that there will be a pressure on jobs. Okay. And that is where the entrepreneur, the CEO will have to really think as to, at the cost of jobs, he or she will have to build a business because the business is bigger than 1 or 2 individuals. Yeah. So now tell me, how should an entrepreneur or a CEO or CXO think when it comes to saying, I have to have compassion, I have to have empathy for the people, but I have to also ensure that the organization survives. Okay, so what should be your broad thinking? I'm not saying that we have an example, it's too early, but what should be the broad thinking of an entrepreneur or a CEO towards people, to begin with, Pinaki?
So I think, Nagesh, it's a good question. So basically, your typical, one question which probably I didn't answer adequately is what would be the CEOs might be thinking? Well, nobody can think of growth right now, so they'll be thinking of cost. But in this particular situation, I hope that when people look at the element of cost, there is a first time when people are talking of salary cuts. Why they're talking about salary cuts is basically to ensure that the joblessness is lower than what it typically would have been given another circumstance. So my sense is people will go for more salary cuts than job cut. That is the way what I hear. So there will be a little bit of cushion. Yes, earning will go down, but there will be some cushion. There are 2 situations. One is a business model which fundamentally changes and people need changes. For example, I'm very sure now that there are certain tasks which require 10 people. Now people have figured out that digitally doesn't need so many people. I think in that case, there will be discussion on do we need so many people, for sure. But in many cases where it is just a temporary phase and bounce back. I think in those cases, probably CEOs will try and manage the people with taking salary cuts so that to, sit down this 3 quarters out and not lose talent. So my sense it will be kind of a dual solution. So in some cases where very clearly it's moving digital, there is no option, there will be job losses. But in cases where it's a matter of riding out time, we would have meant job losses earlier. This time probably it could be managed through salary cuts rather than pure job losses.
Yeah, this is very interesting. People are compassionate about this because this is not coming from a financial problem like 2008-9. It is coming from a medical and health problem. So I think the people portion will be slightly higher. So what you think is right, and it will happen through salary cuts where everybody will share whatever proportion it is and try to save jobs. But let me give you some learning from 2008-9. Organizations which actually did salary cuts lost the key talent because as soon as things opened, the key talent got a higher compensation and left and went. So managing key talent is also as important when we're looking at productivity and cutting costs and cutting salaries, if at all. Anuj, what is it that you have to say on this thought? Okay, I think Kumar has joined, and post that I'll go to Kumar with a different question.
Yeah, absolutely. Nagesh, very similar to what Pinaki said is, first I would say, Nagesh, will be the discretionary spend. Can you consolidate offices? Can you bring down your internal travel cost? Can you bring down the entertainment? All that, whatever you can do, that is discretionary at this moment in time before touching on to the people. The second I would say is, Nagesh, it is the top leadership which takes the pay cut first. They have to lead. So, for example, they take 25% pay cut. Don't do it, in my view, straight with the full organization. Do it with the top guys, then the middle guys are lower, and then the lowest most. Because, they are the ones who are going to get really hurt badly. So the first will be is, Nagesh, I will do discretionary spend. Second, I would do is salary cut, but salary cut not only graded percentage, but also the tenure. Nagesh, so the message goes in that the top leadership first has taken a larger salary cut and then it goes on. And the third, Pinakin was absolutely spot on, that, under these given circumstances, job cut will be really the last thing. Because again, Nagesh, I genuinely believe is, you don't need to cut the muscle on this occasion. We've lived through in 2009, we did cut the muscle at that time is because we knew that it was wealth erosion that had happened. I genuinely believe is that it is productivity loss. If we can go through it, and conserve the cash to be able to come out on the other side of the tunnel, then do not lose the talent. It is going to be difficult. Last point that you mentioned is that, if you cut the salaries, the talent, once the market comes, disappears. Cut the salaries and say, as Nagesh, if at the end of the year, we are able to come in and we are able to deliver what we had thought that we will deliver at the start of the year prior to COVID-19, give back the money to them. I'm not saying that the organization should be opportunistic and take that money. If you are able to fathom through it, and a lot of organizations are doing it at this moment in time, not from retail, but others who do not know what the impact will be. And saying is that if we are on the other side on 31st March 2021, be able to come and deliver our results, we will give back the entire money that we have deducted for on your behalf.
That's very interesting. So I think for the audience who are here, there's one very nice lesson. One is said that compassion and empathy for the employees is very, very important. But what I liked, Anuj, in your statement is be honest and transparent. Okay, both to the leadership and down the organization. Because generally you are transparent to the leadership because that's the leadership team, but go down and be transparent saying if you have to take a salary cut in the current situation when there's no revenue, okay, and you are part of sharing it, be rest assured if you come back onto business and the business can afford it, we'll come back to the original. I think that's a very, very important point. At this point of time, let me welcome Kumar Rajagopalan, the CEO of Retail Association of India. Kumar, I thought best way to bring in is, I know that you are involved with some research where you are trying to find from your members as to what's going on in their mind. I don't know whether the research has got compiled, but is there any top line that you would like to share with us and the audience in terms of what's happening to the mind? You lead the largest association in terms of retailers in this country.
Yeah, I think we've got responses currently with almost about 900 of our members. And the thing that's coming up is that most of the members believe that this impact is something that obviously none of them prepared for, and this is not something that's going to be short-lived. Their belief as retailers is that this could possibly last. Some of them have said 6 months, but most of them have said 9 to 12 months is the kind of impact that they are seeing for this financially, on the one hand. On the other hand, their worry is that there is this whole thing around job losses, and that I think the others have already spoken about. And job losses is the one thing that they'd like to avoid, but it's not something that they would kind of keep it aside and think that it won't happen. None of them would like to lose talents, of course, but it looks like 20 to 25% of the jobs are going to be what I would call as question marks currently in what they are said in this whole process. The third thing is that all of them, they are expecting some kind of a support from the government. I think this is where their expectation is, that support will come, A, from the point of view of supporting employment, B, from the point of view of trying to see what can the government say about paying for their expenses, especially things like rentals for electricity. For example, many of them do not want the minimum electricity amounts to get debited to them at all. So these are the two places where they want some kind of, let's say, direction from the government if it's not from within the members itself. This is the top thought processes. But definitely, most of the members believe that 9 to 12 months it's going to take to come back into full bloom. And I think that's the way retail is thinking.
Nagesh, if I can ask Kumar one quick question, if that's okay. Yeah. Kumar, I mean, it's like I really want to understand, from the retailers, what's the thought that what's the percentage of retailers you think will be able to go through this if it's a 9 to 12 month, crisis? What percentage of your members would have the ability to be able to go through this crisis?
Okay. I mean, when I say 9 to 12 months, they believe that they'd be able to dig back into their business in 9 to 12 months' time. The crisis per se, if it lasts more than, let's say, April or May, I don't know whether any one of them got a picture of what happens when this lockdown is up to, let's say, May end. Yeah. So that factor is not there in anybody's mind. But this is my estimate, and that's what I've been telling newspapers after we've spoken to most of the members. Almost 20 to 25% of them would need some serious infusion of capital, otherwise they're going to be locked out of this business. And considering this Retailers Association, only about 7 to 8% of them are really dealing in essentials. The others have been with zero income for all these days, and they expect this to happen going forward. So this is the expectation. At least 20% of them would be off the radar.
I think, Kumar, we were checking the interest payment for the country, and it is about 11,000 crores per month, and out of that, 4,500 was retail.
Yes.
So if the government needs to seriously think if they can, either pay to the banks on behalf of the companies or something like that. But the cost is about 11,000 crores a month.
Yeah.
So just a quick housekeeping. When you all are not speaking, keep your mic on mute because the audience is getting some disturbance there. I just want Kumar to pick from what you said and what Anuj has asked and what Pinaki said. Interesting fact. One thing which is coming out very, very clear is that because retail is a daily ka dhanda and daily cash aata hai, therefore not having money is very serious, and therefore almost all of them from small to big are facing huge working capital crunch. So I think the working capital is the key thing. And who supports them on the working capital? Either the bankers or the government. So they're definitely expecting a support on the working capital. And if the working capital support comes through, then there's a chance that even the job losses will come down. But Anuj, what you said, now I'm talking as somebody who's part of retail. My own sense is that if this lasts for 9 to 12 months, about 30-35% retailers will have to look for alternate business, or they'll have to look for something else. They may not have enough money to sustain the business. And that's the sense that I get, Anuj, on this.
It is interesting, Nagesh, because, it sort of leads us into a conversation that, who are the partners who are going to be able to support these retailers then? I mean, certainly mall owners are one big partners. I mean, if they're listening to this conversation, then, they'll appreciate that there is a real need to support your partner. The partner is not wanting to be an opportunistic, partner and trying to take advantage of this current situation.
Yeah, so let me bring the next question. See, if you look at the whole value chain in the retailers, you have the supply chain, which is the manufacturer and in between, and you have the retailer, and then you have a mall owner, and then you have the consumers. Because the impact has happened all over, I think the next question which is coming is, how should each partner in the value chain behave? Okay, at this point of time, the bigger you are, the more power you have, you will actually look for a win-lose. I mean, if we have to create a win-win, can we 3-4 of us actually think of what could be a win-win between a supplier who's produced and not been able to supply, a supplier who supplied but not got his money, a mall owner who had you as a tenant but the shops are closed, and a retailer who has his absolute house full with stocks but the doors are closed and consumers are not there. Anuj, you want to take it first?
Sorry, very happy to take it, Nagesh. So, my thought is, as a partner for the mall developer, let's also look at the mall developers' economics, Nagesh, because it's easy for us to say that the mall developer should not charge the rent. Obviously, it'll be difficult to charge during the lockdown period any rent, and many of the mall developers have given that as an exception to say, as we're not going to charge you rent during the lockdown. But I think the question is going to be post the lockdown. The sentiment isn't going to come back in a hurry. The inability of many of the retailers to pay the rentals over the next 2-3 quarters is going to be tough. And hence, one of the things may be that you take percentage of revenue as rent over the next 2 or 3 quarters. But just hang on there, Nagesh. On the other side, these mall developers, they had taken lease rental discounting from the banks. It's not that the money was really coming into them. They had discounted those leases for 9 or 10 years from the various banks, and the full rent every month was going to the banks. Now, if the rental goes down, they need to top it up. The mall owner really needs to top it up. Otherwise, there's a default in the bank, and the bank can step in as the owner of that asset. Unfortunately, Nagesh, neither residential is doing well. Offices, we believe, is going to be in a bit of a problem. Hospitality, which is the hotel, is going to be in a problem. Their inability at this stage to top it up is going to be a bit of a challenge. And this is different to 2009. Because, 2009, Nagesh, you'll remember, the residential came back in a hurry and was doing exceptionally well. So there was no problem. And they were able to support it through the residential sales. My worry this time is that with the well-intended guys, who are the mall owners, they would want to partner their retailers. I just fear the inability at this moment in time of those malls who are highly levered to be able to give the top up. So it's not an easy solution to say, just take a percentage of revenue and, post the lockdown period, let's continue and live happily ever after until we stabilize and then come back to the rental maybe 12 months later. I think what one will have to look at it is that how do we make sure that these mall owners continue to survive and do not default on their loan payments to the various banks on lease rental discounting.
Yeah, very interesting, Anuj. But as you're talking, one of the thoughts came up is that if they can't top up, maybe they have to go back to the banks and talk about spreading it. A loan which was supposed to be spread over 9 years, maybe if it can be made 11 years. Yeah. And maybe if you're going with the retailer as a revenue share, so maybe you ask the retailer, if your minimum guarantee was 40, maybe you give 5 rupees or 10 rupees. So thoda sa cash har kisi ke paas ho, so at least the chakka chalega. Otherwise the problem is the chakka jam ho sakta.
The only thing on that one is, Nagesh, the RBI has to instruct it. So, the mall owner cannot go and have a unilateral discussion with the bank until the Reserve Bank of India allows the bank to restructure. Otherwise, in the bank's book, it will be shown as a default and they'll have to step in as an NPA.
Okay.
I have
good point. So we'll not be able to solve all the problems. Yeah, Kumar.
I have a question for Anuj. Anuj, if we are expecting that the market is not going to stabilize for the next 9 months or so, are you expecting a demand-supply mismatch also happening as far as malls and therefore the rentals are concerned automatically? And would they be forced to take a cut in spite of the fact that the banks, they owe so much of money to the bank and stuff like that. Because the one thing is for sure, the retailers can't sustain, and therefore, will the mall still be able to find some other retailer to come in, or do you expect the rates to really come down?
So very good, very good point, Kumar. My discussion with the mall owners is that they do not want their occupiers to go. And you're absolutely spot on, Kumar, because, the depth of retail in each of the category is just not there. So, they are very concerned over the health of the retailer to say is we want the retailer to sustain in our mall, because if this retailer goes away, we're not going to be able to fill up that space. In there is. So it is in true spirit of partnership. They're really wanting to work on this occasion rather than saying, I am the landlord. It doesn't matter. You've defaulted. Get out of here. Their trouble is that, if the retailer goes away, Kumar, they know they're not going to be able to fill up that space. But they also have, on the other hand, this genuine problem of how to service the bank loan. And that's where, as Nagesh said, we may not be able to find all the solutions on this call. But you're bang on this one, is that the intent is not to get the retailer out. On this particular occasion.
So to me, what looks like, Kumar, I want to just butt in. We have lots of questions to still answer, and we have just about 20 minutes to go. So I will stop here and move over to the next question. And I think this question is for Pinaki. Fine communication with the employees, fine good for a working capital. But if as a business owner you're sitting in your house or wherever, what are the things that you can start thinking about to how to manage the future? I mean, is there some 2 or 3 or 4 options you can give as to how they should do the analysis, how they should look at the opportunities? Because every challenge is an opportunity. Okay, and how should they think? I mean, talk about maybe small and medium business growth if possible.
Yes, so Nagesh, right now the first stage is you don't know about your revenues right now, because you don't know. It depends on whether everything will be off in April, everything will be off in May, things will change. I mean, if everything gets solved in April, a vaccine is found out, things may dramatically change. So right now, what you know is your cost. So I think the first focus should be on elements of cost which you can manage during this period and post-lockdown. And I think Anuj covered a part of that cost. It could be, people cost being the end and to be dealt slightly in a different manner, but look at all other costs, be it travel cost, admin cost, office space, rental, look at all that aspects of cost. Now, when you're looking at post-COVID, I think it's very critical that you also look at business model changes. I think my biggest, what should I say, advice to all retailers is that don't worry about, this cost, this revenue is all, it's a question of 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarters, you will get by. But if you don't catch the business model change, and that's going to be a big challenge for you next time around. So I would say that you need to see how people's behavior in shopping are going to change and what it means for you. You need to see how people are going to consume products now and how it impacts your business model, and that will have a change. You need to see how businesses are going to use technology now, and that will have an impact. So if you look at how people are going to shop, how they're going to consume products, how they are going to leverage technology, how businesses are going to leverage technology, I think these are the aspects which you should use as a kind of, broad themes to look at your business model and then plan forward. Because there is nothing that you can do about, you don't know whether the business is down 10%, 20%. I was looking at some of the stats of the downturn in US retail, where there is some credible data. And there were 2 sectors that pretty much did not have a lot of impact. Quite obviously, food and grocery was one of them, and the second was health products. So they, with their own ups and downs, continued. There's an interesting statistic where food, eating out, that had an impact which took a lag of almost a year, and then it was again 6-7 months, and it was again back to growth. So the whole assumption that my restaurants will all get shut down, and this is not really true. People will want to spend. As they stop spending on the bigger ticket items, don't forget they'll start to spend on the smaller ticket items. So for all these small eateries might do extremely well. So we will have to look at our own business model and see what happens. And as long as we use all these lenses well, I think we will have some solution. As I said, it's a very short period to give out specific solutions per sector. But I would say that depending, if you're the most discretionary, then probably you will have to bear a very longer impact. If you are the immediate, less ticket size, less discretionary, then you will come back quite fast. And you'll have to then worry about your supply chain, and other things rather than your business plan and your and your cost to that extent?
So I have some things that have come up in the last few days, and I just want to share because I know there are small retailers on the webinar, and especially the gentleman आपने जब से ये कोविड शुरू हुआ है मेरे 90% चले गए तो मैं क्या करूं? तो अभी तो आप वो जो चले गए सो चले गए, एटलीस्ट आप कस्टमर के साथ में रिलेशनशिप बना के रखो, फोन पे बात करो, और आज आपके पास बहुत से ऐसे जरिया है जहाँ की आप विद इन 1 day or 2 day यू कैन ऑल्सो गो ऑनलाइन। बहुत सी कंपनीज है, चाहे वो उड़ान हो, चाहे वो शॉपेक्स हो, ऐसी कंपनीज है जिसके थ्रू आप इमीडिएटली ऑनलाइन जा सकते हो, अपने कस्टमर को फोन कर सकते हो कि आप फोन पे ऑर्डर दो और मैं आपके घर के बाहर तक डिलीवर कर दूंगा। बट देयर आर अपॉर्चुनिटीज लाइक दिस। There's another opportunity which has come up which is very big, which is actually money transfer. एक तो गवर्नमेंट मनी ट्रांसफर करना चाहता है और दूसरा जो लोग शहर में हैं वो गांव में मनी ट्रांसफर करना चाहते हैं, और वो बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड नहीं है। आपके पास अगर मोबाइल फोन है तो यू कैन डू दैट, एंड आई एम टोल्ड बिटवीन 10 to 12,000 rupees a month a small shopkeeper can earn just by doing money transfer. मत भूलिए कि जो चाइना में हुआ है पिछले एक हफ्ते में, ओनली प्रोड्यूसिंग कोविड इक्विपमेंट and ventilators and $1 billion. Opportunities आ रहा है. The question is you have to look. एक और webinar में मैंने सुना और सीखा, and they were saying that if you are at home, at least on a piece of paper, work out your next 12 months budget. Next 12 months में आपका बजट कितना है मिनिमम खर्चा करने के लिए, और उसके लिए मिनिमम टू मिनिमम कितना धंधा चाहिए, तो एक बजट बना के चलो. And I was told that of the retailers don't make budget, whether small or medium, और दिन सवेरे कैश आता है, शाम को गले से खर्चा निकलता है, जो बचा वो मुनाफा. So I think some of the thoughts we have to change. We have to become more disciplined, and we probably have to think very, very differently as we go forward. I think this is an important part that we have to look at it. Anuj, are you seeing, or Kumar, are you seeing any new sectors emerging? They're asking, should we look at new businesses and new sectors, the examples that we gave just now? Anything which can emerge in India?
I think I first wanted to talk about this whole scenario that's getting painted, and you are asking about how can retailers survive. The one thing that's coming out very clearly, and at least from the point of view of when we talk to various retailers, small or big, is that life is not going to be the same, and they can only survive if they are getting onto a thought process called collaboration. And we were talking about it the year before. I think in one of our seminars, we talked about collaboration as a big key, but it's become more important now. And retailers have to think beyond their own businesses, think about also the competitors to think how do they collaborate. And I tell you where there are 3 levels of collaboration. One is a collaboration for compliances. And I think there's a whole lot that's going to change because of this COVID issues. This whole social distancing is not going to make life easy. Compliance within the stores will become very different, and there they'll have to listen, learn, ask various people, authorities, etc. In fact, we've seen that happening even now as we talk about essentials being sold, where the government bodies, the various manufacturers, the distributors, retailers came together to ensure compliance happened so that business could go on. So that is one level of collaboration. Second level of collaboration, I'm seeing this from the point of view of revenues. There again, people have to think differently, and you already talked about it as to how they have to work with maybe ShopEx kind of companies for distribution. They'll have to work with people. I mean, today there's a small kirana wala nearby. He wanted to get in touch with Zomato and with Swiggy to be able to deliver. He said, "Sir, delivery aap kar lo, baki main sambhal lunga." So that level of collaboration, I think, is very, very important to make sure that your business still keeps going on, although there are so many people who can come outside your store. So that's the revenue collaboration that should happen. The third collaboration is from the point of view of costs. And there, I mean, Anuj has spoken about for talking to your own real estate players to try and see what you can do from cost angle. You can look at various angles from the viewpoint of various ingredients that you are using to see whether you can do collaboration. So I think collaboration is the key for retailers to survive, and that's coming out very clearly from where I'm seeing when I talk to people.
So I think the good point, Kumar. Collaboration could be a way forward. I mean, you could look at collaboration within the retailers, within the street, and if some people can get together, it will make a difference. I think it's also important to talk about consumers, because retail is about consumers. I wanted to share a small learning of 2008-9. What I've realized is, whichever retailer kept in touch with the consumer during this tough period, if nothing, they spoke to them, inquired about their health, see in which way they can help. I mean, those are the retailers we saw the customers coming back to them. Then retailers who probably thought, COVID hai, aap bhi band ho, hum bhi band ho, baad mein baat karenge. So getting in touch with consumers, I think, is a very, very important part of maintaining the relationship and taking it forward. So I just have 10 minutes to, and I thought there are one or two very, very important questions that people have asked. People have said, what do you think can happen in the next 3 quarters? Will the business come down 25%, 50%, 75%? I mean, this is like a stargazing, but because these are all leaders who are sitting here, I mean, they definitely want to expect an answer and also some thinking as to how they should think when they're building the business model. So, Kumar, would you have something in terms of how the retailers have responded on your survey?
So more than 50% of them believe that they'd land up into a situation of 50% of what they would have achieved in terms of revenue. That's for the 9 months. We're really talking about 9 month period from now on. Yeah. The others, there are some who said it's going to be 25% less, and many of them are in that range actually, 25 to 30% less. But most of them believe that it's going to be 50% less if you take a 9 month period, not the 1 or 2 months. 9 months.
Got it. So let's move to Pinaki. Pinaki, you have any thoughts as to how the next 9 months could look after June? I mean, people have more or less written off April, May, June. Pinaki, are you there, or can you unmute yourself?
Sorry. So, Nagesh, my sense is people will be in the react mode for 3 months starting March. So, March, April, May will go pretty much in kind of reaction, and then it will take anywhere between 6 to 9 months for recovery. So, I don't have a strong number. I think I have the same numbers that Kumar has, from 20% to 50%, depending on which type of industry you are in, is the probably. But I am a little more optimistic than probably the retail community, and the reason is that I feel that this kind of demand, unless there are big job losses, that can have a very negative impact on retail as well. Don't forget that, I mean, a large part of retail is also fed by the consumers, right? So if there are not a big amount of job losses, I think the recovery can be faster, because this is not because of any financial issue. It is simply because of something that is really unfortunate. So the basic tenets of business are still as it is. It's just taken a pause. And that is the reason why I was saying, Nagesh, it is very critical for government to step in. For example, now will the banks agree with the mall owners so that they pass on to retailers? The answer is probably no. Will RBI be able to do it? Again, the answer is no, because if you see, RBI is only suggestion. They are not directions, right? So it is the government which has to bear a part of the pain. So if they are able to ride over a pain of a few months of this whole thing, I think the outlook can be much better than what Kumari or retailers are saying. It could be less than the 25 to 50% that cut that people are expecting it to be.
So I want to do a small poll between the three of you here. Okay, on the NGTV, they had got a lot of Nobel laureates, and more or less the consensus was India till now has spent only 1% of the GDP as a package. US has gone ahead and spent 10% of the GDP. They believe that we should release between 3 to 5% of the GDP so that the economic impact is removed. So how many of you would agree that India should go back, the government of India should spend between 3 to 5% or 5% of GDP so that at least the financial impact is mellowed down and things may look better as we go forward? Pinaki.
Nagesh, I totally agree. I think this is not a time of fiscal prudence. I think we should just be bold and take that step of, I don't know if 5% is the right number. It's about 3.5%, 4.5%. If we take 2% more than what we are planning as a part of our fiscal deficit, we should be able to reasonably manage the way it looks now. Of course, things could change. So I totally agree that we should take that kind of hit and support the business. And the people. Anuj, you are muted.
Sorry, my apology. Nagesh, just before I answer this, I do want to say to the viewers who are there, they should remain very positive minded. They should take care of their health. If health is there, they'll have better immunity. Chances of this disease coming in is going to be lesser. So, please keep a positive mind. I appreciate that all of us are going through it. All of us on the screen are also going through it in our respective capacities, but try and remain positive through this. Somebody sent me a slide, Nagesh. It showed that in terms of the strictness of the lockdown, India was absolutely the topmost. And in terms of the stimulus, we were the bottommost. So, clearly from that perspective, there has to be more that has to be done. I agree with Pinaki. If government has the ability at this moment in time, oil prices are low, no opposition is going to be bothered about fiscal deficit. They can go out and print rupee notes. Yes, the dollar will appreciate in that manner. But, gosh, we're living in India. We're not worried about the dollar at this moment in time. So there should be a lot more financial, fiscal stimulus that needs to come in, because it can't be that, in strictness, we are number one. And at the fiscal stimulus, we're really at the bottommost.
Kumar, you have a thought? Then I would probably conclude.
Yeah, I think today I was listening to this money that's supposed to come in from the World Bank for taking care of the healthcare in the system. And there was somebody who was telling it's 2% of the GDP should be plowed back, or 3% of the GDP should be plowed back only for healthcare. And I'm not an economist, so this is kind of mind-boggling numbers to me. But the one thing I know is, only if you look at the salaries that all of us as retail, only modern retail salary, if you look at, I think the impact is about $500 million every month. And then if you take all the other retailers, you can just multiply it by whatever. So there is money to be given in the hands of people to spend and to survive. On the one hand, there is money to be given from the point of view of extending the moratorium periods or interest subvention or whatever it is that one can give for the businesses that have got hit. So I don't know whether 3% or 5% is the number, but if we don't do it now, and if we start getting worried about fiscal deficit, I don't know at what point of time will the country be able to stand up and walk, and we are on our knees.
Kumar, people who are there on this, their whole expectation is that the government should release funds, whether it is 3 or 4 or 5%, to help them tide the salaries, help them tide with the rentals. And if there's money in the hands of the consumers, then it can definitely make a big difference to them as far as the momentum is concerned, and maybe things will actually come out of it. Yeah. So I know that there are more than 250 questions. I try to put them into lots of 15 and 20 questions. Probably we have answered 60-65% of that. But I also thought that it's important to share that as a person who's been involved with retail business in the last 30 years of pure retailing, this is probably the 5th time that I'm seeing a situation like this. And when I look back at all of us who actually survived, there are 2 or 3 or 4 lessons. Some lessons are for surviving during this period, and some lessons are immediately after the period. So let me share with you the lessons from the past. Whichever organization was able to keep the team together, actually survived. Whichever organization was transparent and honest to the people, actually survived. Whichever organization which shared the pain together actually survived. Whichever organization which was able to connect with the consumers and kept them as part of their journey survived. In fact, I just saw one message from the CEO of the retail company, which was sent to the consumers, and some 30-40 lakh consumers saying, we just want to inform you that we have just paid the salary for March for all the employees on the 26th. I thought, this is amazing. You are writing to your consumers that you have paid salaries of your employees. I don't know what was the response, but I think that is the first thing that you need to do as far as the current situation is concerned. The other learning that we had from the past is, many of us, as soon as the event gets over, in 6 months we forget about things, and we just go back and start doing the same thing the same way. So, for example, one of the retailers was telling me yesterday that there's a possibility that 30% of the retailers may not be able to survive and they may vacate the shops in the mall. But he said then there'll be another 100 who will run and take the shop, and maybe they won't want to take the shop because they're getting the shop, not realizing that these retailers could not manage the shop in their P&L. What the hell will we do to be able to manage the P&L there? So absolutely. I think that is an important part. So the lessons that we have to learn are during the stress, which is going to be for about 2 to 3 months time, hopefully not more. And then the lessons that we have to learn from post-stress or fast to so that we behave ourselves. So, for example, like everybody in the financial world says, save 10% of your salary in SIP and keep it. Maybe a time has come where entrepreneurs have to say, I will save 5-10% of my cash flow and put it in an SIP. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. So I think these are some of we have to learn from the past and as well as we go forward. But dear viewers, thank you much. I don't know what the final number of people who have come on this call, but I must thank Anuj, I must thank Pinaki, I must thank Kumar for taking your time and coming on. We also want to inform you that the recording of this will be available to you as soon as we are able to put this together. I also want to inform you that many of your questions which have not got answered will be answered. I'm to answer it in a way that I'll get feedback from the other panelists. But in the next 24 hours, you'll also get answers to some of the specific questions if they have not got covered. But thank you once again for being with us, and we really look forward to bringing this back to you maybe in another 1 or 2 weeks and see if all of us together can find some resolutions for the times that we are going on. Be safe, be happy, and looking forward to great times forward as we come out of this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nagesh.
Thanks.
Thanks.